Hey, what's happening, gamers? Welcome back to our Road to Origins series. We're playing Arkham Asylum, and we'll be talking about the Joker, all his known origins, and the psychology of the character, and also how we think the Joker in Arkham Origins, I want to say Asylum, is going to behave and maybe will mirror some of these elements from like Legends of the Dark Knight, Alan Moore, possibly the Tim Burton films, and Christopher Nolan, and maybe even the Batman Confidential and All-Star Batman and Robin.
You'll never take me alive!
Okay, so the Joker originally was supposed to be a one-time villain in the Batman universe, and this was a creation of Bill Finger and Bob Kane, and he first appeared in Batman #1. And basically what he does, he appears with this white face
This
and
is going to be funny!
the lipstick and whatever. He looks really weird. And Batman confronts him, and Batman was supposed to kill him, but for some reason or another, he doesn't. Like, the character disappears, and then lo and behold, he comes back, or resurfaces, as a, troublemaker for Batman and becomes his archenemy. The Joker was basically inspired by The Man Who Laughs, which was kind of a horror film or some kind of like really sadistic movie back in the day. It was a silent film, I believe.
Yeah, I actually just watched a little bit of it, and it was actually creeping me out so much I had to stop. This guy takes his enemy, and it cuts like a face, so his enemy's son will always smile his whole life. It's just like, I don't know, it's very sadistic.
That's not funny.
Yeah, it's just, ugh. I can't even believe I said it out loud, but yeah, anyway, so, I mean, the smile looks a lot like Joker's smile, and that's where they got the smile from, I think, from that movie. So, which was based on a story. Pretty much, I think, did the Joker keep coming back because he was so popular in the comics?
Well, I mean, you gotta remember, back then, like in the early 40s and things like that, you had certain characters that would appear, but they would also have stories based on the times, like the war and things like that. Like, it wouldn't be uncommon to see Batman hop a fighter and shoot down some Nazi planes, and use guns and things like that.
Yeah.
So Joker would appear every once in a while for some reason, and then by the 50s, he had more of a prominent role, and they decided, it's about time we did Joker's origin, like Batman's nemesis, like how did he come to be, why is he the Joker? Mm-hmm. And Bill Finger, who was still writing for DC Comics at that time, decided to go with a very theatrical approach. Mm-hmm. And Joker basically took the guise of the Red Hood, which was a costumed villain that he created, and he was just this kind of guy who was, I don't know if he was trying to be a supervillain, they don't really explain it. He was a bad guy for a while.
Yeah, maybe just a disguise so he doesn't get caught or something.
Yeah, probably. He had a run-in with the Dark Knight, and, he fell into a vat of chemicals and basically disappeared. So this is during kind of the campy era. Batman meets up with some kids at a college where he is going to be Professor Batman for a day at like Gotham State University, which played a role in the Adam West show.
Oh, alrighty.
Yeah, so very campy. And he's talking to his students about his unsolved case, and that's the Red Hood, the guy who got away, the one criminal that managed to escape Batman's grasp.
Oh, I see. There was only one.
It's supposedly. This was before Arkham Asylum apparently was like a revolving door.
Yeah. So then what happened?
So the kids basically are like, oh, we're really inspired by Batman's tale, and we're going to find out what happened to the Red Hood. So they do some sleuthing, and I don't know, somehow the Joker resurfaces, like, because the Red Hood's been missing for 10 years, and the Joker's been causing, whimsical chaos in Gotham. Mm-hmm. So the kids discover that he's the Joker. Batman and him have this fight, he and Robin, and I think Joker kills the college kids somehow, or at least like does something to them, but it was the 50s, so they probably didn't die. Today they probably would have.
Yeah, they like went off the screen,
right,
or like fell down or something.
And basically what Joker does is he gleefully tells Batman how he became the Joker and that Batman basically created him. And people were kind of like thrown back by that. I mean, it wasn't like a very compelling story. It was a couple, panels, but the fact that Batman actually created a very evil character, had people in an uproar a little bit. They were kind of like, whoa, can superheroes really create their villains? And then, Superman had the thing with Lex Luthor like a little while later, supposedly, where Lex's hair fell out because of Superboy, and he became enraged at Superman. They were best friends, and Lex became evil that way. So it wasn't uncommon then for heroes to have this chain reaction of creating villains.
Or at least the villains blame the
the heroes, yeah. Misplaced blame. Exactly.
Ultimately, it's like a person kind of decides how they're going to react to the situation themselves, but I guess that's the whole debate, is if they do or if it
how are they going to approach this situation?
Or, what caused the Joker? Was it, the circumstances were, impossible for him to, deal with. It wasn't his fault, or it was. Could he have changed? Yeah, so I guess that's the whole thing of the Joker. But, pretty much, like you were saying, the villain, the Joker had been, wreaking havoc on Gotham.
Yeah,
and then you find out, oh my goodness.
Yeah, Batman created this guy.
Like, you didn't know who the Joker was, and you find out, oh my gosh, it was the Red Hood all this time ago. And he explains, like, and I don't know, I guess there's all kinds of different, I guess the original story was that he
the Red Hood has appeared in so many different retellings of Joker's
it was
origins.
In the animated series at one point.
He was never in.
Oh, I thought there was like a flashback or something.
No, not with him. Not with him as the Red Hood. We're jumping ahead a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Basically, in the 70s, when Denny O'Neil and all these different people, they wanted to take Batman away from the campy Adam West days and bring Batman back to his detective roots with strong story lines and things like that. So they created new characters like Ra's al Ghul and Clayface and things that had more like a compelling story to them that also brought more humanistic character portrayals into the comics. So with Joker, what they wanted to do is, this guy was always kind of rough around the edges, and before he was a murderous clown, he was a hitman for the mob.
Yeah. And
a cold-blooded killer that once he took on the guise of the Red Hood and somehow fell into this vat of chemicals, or Batman created him or whatever, he went completely insane, but he still kept his mentality as a sadistic murderer. And that's how he stayed for a very long time. In fact, Tim Burton and Bruce Timm were both inspired by this version of the Joker when they went and created their own way the Joker would act and behave and things like that. So that's why in Tim Burton's film, Jack Napier was a mob enforcer who was moving his way up the ranks.
Oh, okay, yep. So he was already a bad guy, kind of. But then
Jack Nicholson grew up with the Cesar Romero Joker, this kind of artistic psychopath. So he kind of combined the mobster with the artist.
Cesar Romero did do an excellent job, actually.
But he refused to shave off his mustache. They had to paint it over.
Oh my gosh, I remember you telling me that. But the thing is, originally, I have to ask you, Kami, Batman just spooked him and he fell into the pit of acid, right?
Well, in the campy days, but not in the 70s. In the 70s, Batman was so ticked off by this character, the Red Hood or whatever, he just kind of, it was like punching him into the vat. It was like
he let him,
I don't think he did it on purpose. It was like...
Yeah, I guess it's hard to tell in the Keaton one, too.
In the Keaton one, I cannot tell to this day, after rewatching the film, even in Blu-ray recently, I have no idea, because if you look at Keaton's eyes, and the fact you can see it so clearly now, the way he's looking at this guy, it's like some type of animal looking at its prey. He's he's gripping down, and his eyes are staring right at Jack's, and it's like he recognizes something, and then all of a sudden he starts to reach to bring him back up. But there's a time where he pauses, like, I don't care what happens to you. That's the type of Batman that Keaton played.
Yeah.
So I don't agree with people saying that he tried to save Jack. I don't really think he did. I don't think he knew that was the guy who killed his parents. That revelation comes later in the film. Which I've never liked that. And even Bruce Timm, when he created his version of the Joker, still using the mob boss thing from the Bronze Age, was kind of like, you know what, we don't like the idea that Joker killed Batman's parents. That's
it's too weird.
That's terrible
it
writing.
It just connects them so much, like then you wouldn't even have to have any other characters. It'd just be Joker and Batman.
Yeah,
It's
it would
just
be like the Joker created Batman and Batman created the Joker.
It kind of takes away from the whole random thing
Act of violence that created
Joker
Batman.
had random stuff that happened to him. Batman
Later.
had random stuff that happened to him.
Yeah.
You know, they both chose different paths. I think that's the whole thing.
Yeah, because basically in Bruce Timm's universe, like which we saw in The Mask of the Phantasm, Joker was this hitman named Jack for the Salvatore mob. And, you know, he went and killed Andrea's father. He had no remorse for it. In fact, as he's leaving the house, I remember this so clearly, he's chewing an apple like nothing happened. Like, he just went in and murdered this guy in horrific ways. He's walking out the door, you know, just like doing his job.
No conscience.
No conscience for what he does. He doesn't care.
Yeah, his heart is stone cold. Just no feeling for...
Exactly.
He doesn't care. Yeah.
You hit like a girl.
No moral, I don't know, anything anymore. No compassion, you know?
No compassion, exactly.
other
And then
people
basically
besides
what
himself.
happened, all his bad deeds in life caught up with him, and when he fell in the vat of acid in the animated series, he just went stark raving crazy. Like he was obsessed with Batman because here he is, this guy who had something, what he thinks horrible happened to him, but I think it was just karma catching up with him or something, or, you know, whatever
Right.
word best describes that situation. Batman, on the other hand, is this avenger of justice that's dark and gritty. And as we see in Arkham Origins, you know, Joker's this whimsical madman murderer, you know, kind of like the thieving magpie, the opera thing.
Yeah.
And Batman is the exact opposite of the Joker. So these two forces meet, and they're like the complete opposite of one another. And Batman can't understand how this guy who has, you know, this very lighthearted approach to life just can be this sadistic murderer. In fact, in the trailer, when Joker blows up the buildings, you know, Batman's just like, "Why did you do that?" You know, like he is, and Joker just kind of like, "Well, I don't think there was anybody in it, but maybe there could have been. I don't know. It just felt like something to do." You know, so I know, terrible, but
No, I remember the trailer. Yeah.
No,
know what
I
you're
was
talking
going
about.
my impression was
No, it was okay. Yeah, but yeah, exactly. Like Batman has this like. He always cares about every single person around him. Like it's actually almost like his responsibility that he actually cares about every single person he has contact with. It
Mr.
matters.
Freeze,
It
Two-Face.
matters to him.
He never gives up
Even
on
people in
people.
buildings that he doesn't know their names, you know, he actually cares what happens to them.
Even at the end of Arkham City when Joker dies, which, come on, people, you got to know that by now. Batman is still showing remorse toward the character and says, you know, even no matter what you did or would have done, I still would have tried to save you.
Yeah.
And Joker's like, you know what? That is funny because Joker doesn't get it. He's trying to push Batman beyond the breaking point, like to have Batman break his one rule so that there'll be nothing separating them. Like the Joker kills, Batman kills. There's nothing separating the two.
Right.
Joker just has to wait and watch for Batman to go completely insane so they can share a cell together, like in The Dark Knight, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And then Joker's the total opposite. He doesn't really care about anyone anymore. He cared about anyway. Yeah, he doesn't care about anyone anymore.
Well, he didn't in those alliterations, but then Alan Moore, during The Killing Joke, which is a very graphic book, something very bad happens to Barbara Gordon, and it's all done as a purpose to drive Commissioner Gordon crazy because, like Harvey Dent, Commissioner Gordon is seen as like the White Knight of Gotham, like this incorruptible symbol that Joker wants to make a point that all it would take is one bad day for the sanest man alive, Commissioner Gordon, to, you know, just drop everything and, you know, go insane.
Right, he's trying to make a point that because everyone's acting, I guess he wants people to see that, you know, it could have happened to anyone, or he's not, you know, that far off or something.
Because
but
that very thing happened to him. And Alan Moore actually had like a background in psychology and things like that. So when he started writing Batman in the late, I think it was the late 80s, I believe, they did a lot of different character-related stuff. And one person who really looked up to Alan Moore was, of course, Paul Dini, who took his writings even further in the animated series by giving psychological aspects to characters like Mr. Freeze, Two-Face, Joker, Harley Quinn, Scarecrow. You know, all these different characters all had a more human edge to them. They weren't just these horrible madmen in masks that committed murders and heinous acts. There actually was a human element to those characters, and that was never done before, outside from a few characters. Like Mr. Freeze was just always this cold-blooded killer. You know, he was never. There was never no purpose to him. Never no purpose.
Never no purpose. Never any purpose.
Yeah, that's so proper. But
double negative, Kwing.
When they rewrote him to be this guy who's just trying to save his wife, and he's lost it. Like, he's lost that edge.
Yeah.
You know, I really think that The Killing Joke kind of inspired Paul Dini to write Mr. Freeze the way it was. Because Nora was Freeze's edge into the world, and when she was taken away from him, he fell apart. Like, he literally started to crumble like a snowman.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Joker.
It has, I mean, it actually has happened. Like, there's, you know...
There's a lot of cases
of that happening to people where, I mean, and you know, part of me thinks like, oh my gosh, you could just get remarried and find someone else. But exactly, if you have that strong of a bond with somebody, especially if you know them when you get married when you're young, and you just like that, you're that person's whole world.
They're your emotional anchor.
You're each other's whole world, especially these misunderstood characters.
Oh, definitely.
Where there's no one else who can understand them or whatever, and they support each other and understand each other. I think it's just, you know, it makes more sense, you know, and you never know how many friends you're gonna have in this life. Sometimes you only have one who really understands you, and or one, you know, spouse or someone that you love, and it's just like if you have that one person and then you don't have them, I mean, what a difference, you know. It can just drive you over the edge. But it is interesting, you know, from the Adam West kind of thing to the Paul Dini, you know, to actually understand why these villains are hopping around, you know, doing this stuff.
Instead of just being in colorful costumes like in the 60s and just causing problems.
I think it makes the whole Batman universe more exciting, because then, like, to watch and, you know, read the different Batman stories, you actually delve into things that you actually have to think about, like, what does this mean, like, how does this affect me, and, like, you think about humanity and what it really means, like, you know, it actually makes you think. So yeah,
You'll never take me alive.
Interesting that he would say that. But
yeah,
we're referencing The Killing Joke because this is the only story that DC for almost 30 years would keep redoing in some shape or fashion. And even in the late 2000s, like before the New 52, they actually brought back a key tie to Joker's past through The Killing Joke, the guy who murdered his wife, Janine. Like, and Joker actually was sane briefly. Like, you know, I'm not going to be the Joker right now. I'm going to go murder the guy who killed my wife. Like, he was like, even though he had complete detachment from reality and went kind of catatonic after Batman died, which is similar to the Frank Miller book where Batman retired after Jason Todd was killed and Joker just kind of like shut down because his playmate was gone and he just drooled in a cup for like 10 or 15 years.
Yep.
And then as soon as Batman resurfaced, like Joker was back in the game like nothing.
Yeah.
The same thing happened when Dick Grayson became Batman and Joker found out Batman was dead. He was so delighted to hear Batman was back in Batman Reborn, but he met up with Dick Grayson and he realized that it was Nightwing under the mask, and he just walked up to him, grabbed his cape, and said, "Bat fake," and walked away.
Yeah,
and Dick
didn't
even bother to pursue him because Joker to him was like, whatever. Later in his career, Joker does come back though and cause a little bit of problems because, you know, just for old times or something. I don't know.
Yeah, Joker can't really relate to Dick Grayson because he feels this connection with Batman, with Bruce, because
they're almost like the two sides of the same coin
in
what they represent.
They've both been through pretty horrendous things and had to deal with them alone, whereas Dick Grayson hasn't had to deal with it alone.
Unless it's the New 52 where he grew up as just an orphan and was basically like a soldier for hire for Batman. He was Robin for 1 year and then became Nightwing and led the Titans, and everybody lost their memory. Then he became like kind of this, I don't know. I don't even understand. I don't even know
I
how
don't
this character
understand the
became.
New 52 because it wouldn't make any sense
No.
that Robin could train for a year and then
Do all the things that he did
and
since
then,
he was
then
trained
somehow
since he was 8
be
years
able
old.
to, after a year of training, be able to fight crime on the streets. Like, you just get killed if you were like only trained for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you'd have to be trained for many, many years by someone. Yeah, but anyway,
Back to the Killing
like
Joke.
I was gonna say,
Ow.
the Killing Joke is really hard for me to take in. But I think that one good thing, like you said, I think was really interesting, it surprised me, was the new backstory of Joker. That he could have been a regular guy.
During that crazy comic. Like,
yeah, that he
during
could have
all
been,
this, you get a window into Joker's
that he
mind.
could have been a scientist that was just a normal guy trying to help his pregnant wife, that he was trying to provide for his pregnant wife, and that she just, you know, she got killed by really bad people, or
Mob.
nobody knows, he didn't know why she got killed, and then, you know, it just, you know, and the same day he fell into a vat of acid.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
never
like,
beat me, Joker.
yeah, that makes
I won't
sense
let
why
you
someone
win.
would go totally insane. I mean,
That would definitely
yeah,
do it. Yeah.
I mean, and it makes you feel for them. I almost feel better when he's a mobster and he goes into the vat of acid, because I don't feel as bad for him if he's already kind of bad. But it's like, if he's just a regular guy trying to do the best he can, and then you see all the things he's gone through. Like, he actually had to go to the point where he was, you know, he was trying to get help from the mob because he couldn't make ends meet, and then it ended up backfiring on him. It just feels like he's so tragic, like such a tragic character. Like, he tried to do the system, and then, you know, he felt, you know, this stuff happened to him that was totally unfair. And then he just lost it, where he's just in this fantasy world now. And like we were listening to that thing from Troy Baker where he was doing
where
that
he did
quote.
one of the Killing Joke monologues.
Yeah, and then at the very end, he's, you know, on that monologue, it says that, you know, madness is the emergency exit. And I think that it makes so much sense, because it's like building a fantasy world around yourself where I think he's so detached. He's like psychotic. He's a psychotic person, the Joker is. And I don't think he's aware of how much pain he's causing people. He's so detached and just laughing about it. Like, he's in a fantasy world, and that is the only thing keeping him from drooling in a cup, like you said before. And I think that makes so much sense.
Well, I mean, he doesn't have...
He's grasping at reality.
The Frank Miller book also came out, like the Dark Knight Returns came out around the same time as The Killing Joke. Like, all the stuff that happened in The Killing Joke was pretty much referenced in Frank Miller's books, because Batgirl wasn't in action. Robin was killed after Barbara Gordon was paralyzed, and even, you know, so all that stuff happened, and Joker's tie to reality was Janine. Janine was not just his lifeline, but like, she was his encouragement, and he had I would say he had a decent job, like where he was, but I got shot. he had a good job where he was, but he hated his job. He hated his job so much.
It wasn't like making him happy.
No.
It didn't bring him joy. Like,
But it was paying the bills, even though they
Exactly.
lived in a very crummy, like not really safe apartment complex that was literally falling apart. And here you have like this loving couple that are supporting one another, and she basically tells her husband, she sees he's miserable, she's like, you know, just do what you've always wanted to do. And he always was able to make her laugh, so he decided, you know what, I think I'll try stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
But he was horrible at it. He was really, really bad at it, that he got fired. Like, as a stand-up comic, he got fired. And then he was low on income, so he went and he talked to the mob, which, again, you never do.
exactly.
And they said, you know, well, we'll just do a small job, and then we'll take care of your finances for your wife's, you know, baby coming. You know, we're going to take good care of her and the baby, is what they told him. You
Right.
do this one little thing for us. As insurance, though, to make him go through it anyway, they had his wife killed, which he didn't know about.
Oh, that's why they did that. Okay.
When the mob found out, you know, that his wife died, because he was like, you know, my wife's funeral's tomorrow, I'm not doing this, I have to, whatever. I mean, I guess he was planning on going to the funeral, which I don't know how he could. It'd be kind of hard. But they made him do it anyway. And what was funny, the mobsters who set everything up ended up actually dying in the crossfire when the police raided the factory.
There you go. That was justice.
And he was wearing this disguise, which was a Red Hood costume. Batman showed up, Joker got spooked, and he fell into the vat of chemicals.
Right. Did they threaten his wife? I thought they threatened her before.
They never really. It wasn't until
in so many words.
When they revisited Dick Grayson's time as Batman, and they brought up it was the Riddler who kind of brought up because he was a private investigator by that point, before the New 52, pre-52.
Yeah.
They found out more stuff about Janine. She was a good girl. She was a very devoted wife and the good wife, the kind of stuff that a lot of people take for granted these days. And it just kind of, she didn't do anything. I believe the mob approached her for money, and she said, my husband will take care of us or something. And there was a fire, and she ended up dying. It wasn't a freak accident. It was arson.
Yeah.
And Riddler was either, I don't even know how they explain this, but Riddler was around the vicinity when it happened, so he was able to see who did it, and he gave the information to Joker all those years later when he became good. Because, villains didn't really have, there was no honor among thieves or anything in Gotham.
Right.
Every rogue for themselves. But when he became good or whatever, a privateer, private investigator, whatever it is, he really had no reason to be against the Joker anymore.
Yeah.
And just kind of gave him the keys to his sanity, or tried to.
Yep.
But there's never any solace for the character because, of course, the New 52 started shortly after that. And Batman came back from the dead, and it just... I really wish the Joker could have some kind of closure, for that, because that his anchor was taken away from him, and he had the ability to gain revenge. And DC just kind of was like, we're just going to change everything. Even though the Bat books are doing fine, we're just going to rewrite everything.
Yeah, but I do like I'm really surprised, because I usually don't like people who change backstories very much, but I almost feel like the backstory of him being, I think he was actually part scientist. He was studying to be that too, or something like that.
Yeah, he was
he was doing
chemist.
that, and then he wanted to be a comedian instead. That's right. But the fact that that he, that she loved him, and that he actually went crazy because she was gone, and he was actually trying to do the right thing, that he just lost it. I think that almost makes more sense than, if he was already a mobster, he was already evil, maybe he wouldn't have lost it as much. But I don't know. I almost feel like the fact that he was trying to do everything right, and then it just all came crashing down on him. I think that almost makes more sense, because if you're already evil, you've already kind of lost it. I don't know if you would go that crazy if you were already kind of in there, and I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I really do like that. It gives more humanity to it, and I think it definitely paved the way for Mark Hamill's impressions of the Joker, where he is this psychotic person that just laughs and is just he does, scarily act just like a psychotic person.
They basically asked, because the person who tried out for the role of the Joker before Mark Hamill was Tim Curry, the guy from It. And they said that his performance was so terrifying as the Joker, they didn't even know if the series would, because they definitely signed him on as the Joker. It was they heard Tim Curry and they were like, we have our Joker, but this guy is they gave them chills. So Mark came in and did a different approach, and they were like, this is not only perfect for TV, but this guy is the comic book Joker. The other guy was horror Joker that still worked. It was kind of like John DiMaggio's Joker, or D'Amico, or I can never say his name, but the guy from the Red Hood movie, where Robin was killed. That portrayal, that's pretty similar to how Tim Curry would have done it, from what people have said.
Yeah.
Andrea Romano, the voice director.
Yeah, and if you actually do the Joker I couldn't even watch the episodes of the Joker when I was a little girl, because it would scare me half to death. And I would have nightmares, because if you actually, when you're a kid and you watch that, it's I don't know.
I had to leave the theater when I saw Mask of the Phantasm and the Joker did that thing with that's what I want to see, a nice big smile, the eerie music, and also the scene where he was attacking Artie with the knife, like in the office, and they just went to the shadow with his cackling laughter. Oh, that was horrifying.
He did, I know that Mark had to tone it down, and everyone had to tone it down for the animated series and stuff like that. But, I mean, regardless, I think that people would have been really surprised with the performance. Like, if it was a live-action show, I think people would have really gotten chills because if you think of it as you're watching it as a little kid, it's like you're a concrete thinker and you're thinking, oh my gosh, like you're actually imagining this happen with real people, not cartoon drawings, and you're thinking, like I was saying, like with the when he puts this guy in a box and pushes him down, somewhere and says you're gonna melt like a grilled cheese sandwich and like the guy's gonna burn up or something. I mean, that was like horrifying to me when I was a kid. So yeah, he's very, the Joker is definitely, yeah, he's a scary guy. I think that's part of what makes him scary is that he's totally insane. You never know what he's going to do next. But one thing I was noticing with the game, I don't know if I'm off topic, but I saw that they had some kind of, with a trailer to the Arkham Origins, they had those bottles of kind of science stuff, chemicals and stuff like that.
I don't know if it's supposed to be the Titan drug or if it's his laughing gas.
Oh,
we don't really know yet.
But it makes sense because if he had part of that kind of Alan Moore kind of scientist aspect of the Joker, for his background.
But they might just be pulling like they did a spoof or they did a terrible thing in The Dark Knight when Heath Ledger was kind of doing some Killing Joke stuff. They twisted it even more to the fact that his wife was actually abusive and gave Joker the scars and things like that. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, they took a really great character and they completely ruined Janine for film. But speaking of Janine, one thing I want to mention before we run out of time is that Janine and Harley Quinn actually look identical. And that's part of the reason why Joker has this romantic attraction to Harley. He doesn't necessarily love her, but she looks like his deceased wife. And that is definitely sick. That's pretty freaky.
Kind of, well, he is insane.
Well, he's using her as a tool to an end, basically.
At least in some ways, most people believe he's insane. Like, in most renditions of him, he's insane. In some, he's like this guy who's so smart he can make people think he's insane and get away with things. But I like to think he's insane because if he's so smart that he can pretend that's just too creepy. And I think that was kind of like the I don't know if that was the Heath Ledger idea. They gave him those kind of things to research, and it's kind of like, whoa, that's too crazy.
The difference between the Heath Ledger Joker and the Killing Joke Joker, the Killing Joke Joker had, he does have remorse. Like, he really does. Like, at the end of the book, when it's time for him to go to jail and he's done all this stuff, he's not fighting Batman. They're talking in the rain. They're having a moment. Batman actually laughs at one of Joker's jokes. And, he realizes, because Batman says, one day we're going to end up killing each other, which could be a foreshadowing moment to, the Arkham game, like later, if they do that in Arkham Origins. Could be a foreshadowing element. And Joker's just like, you know what, I've come too far now that I can't go back. Like, he's just, and then he goes right back into the performance. Like, he breaks character and he tells Batman that I can't stop. This has gone too far.
Yeah.
My family wouldn't recognize me. It's we have to just both ride this out together and see who lives the longest, basically.
It's almost like you can't handle the truth. You can't deal with it.
It's like a bad opera or something.
You can't deal with it. Wow, that's crazy.
The difference between that and the Heath Ledger Joker, the Heath Ledger Joker was based on some of the most horrific DC comic stories to ever, and they were sadistic. I mean, this was a kid who they made Joker evil to the core as a child. Like, he enjoyed torturing animals, he murdered his parents and, like, actually got a thrill from it. He killed his girlfriend, he killed his wife, killed his boss. He's just, and then he ended up becoming, I believe it was a hitman again or something, but like a ruthless crime lord. Mm-hmm. And he was actually completely sane. Like, when he met Harley Quinn, he was actually using her, and she knew that he was sane. But to everybody else, he put on this performance that he was really not aware of his actions, but he was this malicious, calculating, evil person who just wanted to watch the world burn. And Heath Ledger took that Joker and just made him like even worse.
Yeah. The thing, I mean, yeah, I do believe the Joker's insane, so I don't agree with that. And I think also you have to be really careful with that, because if you're gonna study that kind of, you know, Joker, because it's like, if I don't know, just to I don't know. It's just, first of all, I think the Joker's insane. I think that would just be too crazy, too sadistic to be that kind of person. But, I mean, if you're going to study why somebody does something like, oh, why did he do this and this and this, these horrible things, like, you would have to be insane yourself.
You become insane.
You would have to be insane to understand it. If you,
Case in point, Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn had this idea of studying the Joker to get fame and fortune, and all he did was end up like turning her into what he was.
Yeah.
Except probably far worse. Harley is completely sane, but now looks at the world in an insane way. Like, she has a means to an end still, which you saw in Mad Love.
Yeah, she actually could choose to be sane.
She almost killed Batman. She almost did it, and Batman had to basically manipulate her into calling the Joker to rescue him, because she had almost killed him. The blood was rushing to his head. He was hanging upside down in a thing with piranhas, and the piranhas had smiles because Batman was looking at the piranhas upside down.
They were,
So how he got free is Joker came and basically beat up Harley.
Yeah,
And told her that, you know, the reason why you're not good at this, he basically said she was sane. He says, if you have to explain the joke to somebody, there is no joke. So, and Harley didn't get it. Like, he pushed her out of a building and whatever.
Right, and yeah, that was one of the most violent things in the animated series. It's like, whoa, don't show that. Yeah, exactly. But, you know, they were trying to show, their actual relationship was pretty freaky. But, I mean, this is why I think the Joker has to be insane, psychotic, because the idea that he laughs when he's doing this stuff shows that he's totally detached from reality. And that, I mean, that's actually how psychotic people actually are.
He's not detached from reality. He doesn't even know reality is...
Yeah, but I mean, like, he laughs when he's being violent. Like, normal people don't do that. Like, if you're normal and you're beating somebody to a pulp or yelling at them or angrily hitting, I don't know.
He sees life as a big joke.
Yeah, but I think, okay, that's interesting. But I really see him as, like...
I'm not disagreeing that he's psychotic.
Yeah, I think he is. I think, because I was just thinking, you know, they've actually, you know, done studies where they show that people who have an abnormal reaction to an abnormal situation, that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, these people that are put in really weird situations where they have to, you know, do really weird things and they end up having to cause someone harm, they actually end up, like, normal people end up laughing for no reason, and it doesn't even make any sense, and it's because you just can't even deal with it, like, so it's almost like you're not even aware of what you're doing. You're, like, detached. You're not even aware. Maybe you are aware you're causing them pain, but it's like you don't even have any, like, humanity left in you, so it's like doesn't matter to you. Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, like I said, if I try to understand it, I'd be insane myself. So
yeah, totally. But getting to the Arkham Origins thing, I mean, there's really no way to know how Joker's going to be portrayed, but since it's essentially a new 52 vehicle and they're redoing a Joker's origin like that people knew about when they started the new 52, and they started Arkham Origins, like Warner Brothers and DC are really working hand in hand with such shows like Beware the Batman as like a vehicle for Shiva and stuff to be in Arkham Origins. We're probably going to see some differences to how Joker came to be, or at least get a rough idea of it based on the stuff that's happening in the new 52. And I really don't like that because Troy Baker recently just did the Killing Joke monologue, and that kind of showed some stuff. So the fact that they're just probably doing that to appease the fans, because the writers that they have involved are not Dini's level, they're not Frank Miller's level, and this is just a like appetizer game until, you know, Arkham Chaos or whatever that game is that Kevin Conroy let slip by accident. Because Kevin's getting up in years, let's face it.
That's alright. He's doing pretty well. We love Kevin.
We love Kevin. Yeah, Kevin's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're definitely going to take aspects from different, it seems like so far they've taken, from what we've seen of Arkham Origins so far, they've taken a lot of different villains and ideas from different sources, like you were saying, Beware the
Batman,
and stuff
Legends
like
of the
that,
Dark Knight,
and stuff that's going on right now. So I guess you can kind of look at things like that. I mean, I don't know, how is the Joker in the New 52? I forgot. Like, they just revamped him.
He's the guy who ripped off his face from a guy named Dollkiller and became kind of like a Fabergé mask murderer.
Well, I don't see how they could do that because he still has his face here and this is a prequel.
No, I don't think they'll do that. But
so they can't do that, but definitely
just what they're thinking of doing with his.
I hope that they keep. Yeah, I hope they keep humanity in, because it's like, even if you write the most sadistic children's story, like, oh my gosh, they did all these things, at some point somebody has humanity in them. You know what I mean? So I like the fact there's an origin story with humanity.
Well, there might be some hope with some aspects of it, because Troy Baker is a huge fan of The Killing Joke. That's why he read the monologue or part of it. So, I guess like Troy said, we'll have to find out on October 25th before we, pass final judgment. What I've heard and talked with the devs and things, I'm still not impressed with it, because, like I said, this is an appetizer game. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be a lot of fun to play. It's a lot bigger than Arkham City. It's like an onion. It has layers. Like, everything's layered. The levels are layered. The storyline is not going to be layered. The story will take you less time than it took Arkham City, from what we're hearing. And we have inside sources, so those haters out there are like, you have no whatever, it's like, we have inside people, so shut up. Basically, I'm not going to deal with you guys. Whatever. This is not the last video of Arkham Origins or the Road to Arkham Origins. I will be doing a video on Electrocutioner, which is a 90s villain, more or less, and I'll be giving you guys the backstory of the character and how I think he will be used in Arkham Origins. I'm pretty sure that Batman's going to get his electric gauntlets, or that idea from that character, but what character that's going to be, like what persona Electrocutioner is going to be, I don't know. But anyway, thanks so much for taking the time to watch. Just a quick reminder, we will be doing a full walkthrough of Arkham Origins, and if you are worried about missing an episode, make sure you go to the link in the description where you can actually subscribe to our Arkham Origins show, and you'll never miss an episode. We will be putting out so many episodes of Arkham Origins. We're going to be covering the full walkthrough. We're going to do the side missions. We're going to do as many of the skins as possible with as much lore based on those different variants of Batman in all the different universes. Like Earth 2, we'll be looking at Thrill Killer. We'll be doing all kinds of stuff. Like, I've really brushed up on my stuff, because there's like 16 or 17 costumes. But we hope you guys have enjoyed the Joker episode. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch. Don't forget to tickle that like button in support of the Joker and Batman. And we'll see you next time with another Road to Origins. Thanks for watching.
See ya.